Welcome to Pacific Mystery School. We are in the heart of the mystery tradition, the Western mystery tradition. And today we are talking about the Lovers. The tarot card, the Lovers, it's number 6 in the major arcana. And I'll just begin by saying that on the Tree of Life, Tarot of the Spirit is a Kabbalistic tarot deck, which means that all the cards fit on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. Okay, so the path of the Lovers. Oh, let me ask you, when you look at the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, where do you think the path of the Lovers ought to go? Just make something up.
In the middle. 1 and 6.
1 and 6.
No.
Okay, that's interesting. Any other just thoughts on it?
4
just
and 5.
4 and 5? Okay. Any other guesses?
Straight down the middle?
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I thought you would answer, and then I'm going to tell you where it actually is. Okay, so what I thought you would answer is the path of the Lovers ought to go between the number 2 and the number 3. The reason being, the number 2 is the male, the divine male energy, and the number 3 is the divine female energy, the divine masculine, divine feminine, right? And all the fathers fit on or around number 2, and all the mothers fit on or around, in or around number 3. So I thought you would say that's where the path of the Lovers should go to connect those two, which nobody even said anyway, okay, because you guys are overthinking it. That's because you're all very smart, right? Okay, but here's the interesting thing about the Lovers. That is not where the path of the Lovers is. The path of the Lovers moves between the number 3 and the number 6. So the Divine Mother is there in the number 3, and it turns out that number 6 is the sphere of the cosmic child, or the divine son, S-O-N. Also, the sun, S-U-N, rules that sphere, so to speak. But it's interesting that the path is between the mother and her progeny, which is really interesting. Okay, so now let's skip that for a second and just go back to it's sphere number 3 and sphere number 6 that the Lovers connects on the Tree of Life. So the number 3, just in general, and this applies to all number 3 tarot cards. That'd be the 3 of fire, the 3 of water, 3 of wind, 3 of earth. All 4 of those number 3 cards have to do with the cosmological power of creation, generation. Those cards are about birthing. Okay, so the reason that I say that is because the number 1 cards are all about a new beginning, a starting point. The number 2 cards are all about that starting point, finding something it's attracted to, moving toward. And then the number 3 cards are something that's born out of that. So all the 3 cards are this big expansion and this big birthing energy. So you're going to see something being born in the realm of spirit, that would be the wands, something being born in the realm of heart, and that's the water, something being born in the realm of mind or consciousness, that's the wind, something being born in on the realm of manifestation, that's the earth. So those are the 3s. Okay, so the 3s are connected with the 6s by the path of the Lovers. So we'll just start there. The 6s have to do with first of all, the 6s are the space that we want to live from and out of as we are, quote, walking on the material plane, this plane that we're on Earth, right? So this dimension of Earth. The 6 of fire is about finding a way to make your offering into the world, and your offering is going to come out of all the struggles you've been through. That's what really provides your most important offering into the world. In the water, the 6 is about faith. It's called faith, and it's about knowing that you're supported. You're actually knowing you're supported. You are not alone. You have a support system activated. That would be the 6 of water. 6 of wind is called clarity, and it's about becoming very clear. It's a balance between the chalice and the blade, that's male and female, an exact balance between those two. Also receiving messages from beyond, so it connects also on another dimension, so that you're also not alone there. And then the Six of Earth is walking the beauty way, beauty before me, behind me, above me, below me, all around me, and inside me. So the path of the Lovers connects these two spheres, the sphere of 3, which is the birthing area or the creation area, and the 6, which is the way we want to walk on the planet. And the 6 also is the sphere of synergy, meaning synergy is the cosmological power of the number 6. And synergy has to do with not only walking, in a sense, in the realm of the 6s, making your offering, living in faith, being in a state of clarity, which all of that overrides and overcomes fear. If we can be in a state of clarity, we're not in a state of fear. If we're in a state of love and support, we're not in a state of fear, right? So all of it overrides fear and the struggle. Okay, and then we walk in the way of beauty. Okay, so that's the place we want to live from, but we want to live in that place synergistically. And what it means to live synergistically is that we don't have to do everything. We only have to do the thing that we do, or the thing we came to do, because other people are going to take care of other things. For example, some people are born to be politicians, and they are going to be politicians, right? And some people are going to support politicians or whatever. Some people are born to be warriors. They are going to be warriors. Some people are born to be writers. They are going to be writers, you know? So all we have to do is the thing that we do and figure out what our heart's desire is that way and live that way. And I'm making this motion with my hands while I'm saying it. This motion I'm making means a little piece of the pie. I'm making a piece of the pie. So it's a big pie, and all we have to do is our piece, just our piece. And we have to trust other people to do the other pieces, because each of us is made differently and we're not meant to do everything. Just do the piece in your own backyard and make that work, okay? The piece that you do. Now, for some people, their own backyard will be the entire globe. It just depends. But the idea is about following your calling and then bringing it into the fullness of its being. I also want to say that this path between the 3s and the 6s crosses the abyss on the tree of life. So if you look at the tree of life diagram, what you see is that there are 5 paths that cross over the abyss, and it is said that the abyss divides the world of potential from the world of manifestation, and the sixes are in the world of manifestation, and the 3s, this is just one way of looking at it, the 3s are not yet in the world of manifestation. If we look at the whole chart of the tree of life as the world of manifestation, it changes, because then the 3s are in the world of manifestation when we look at the whole chart that way. But you can also look at the chart where 1, 2, and 3, the 1s, 2s, and 3s are not yet manifest, and the manifestation, once you cross the abyss, starts in the 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so just how you're using it, how you're using the tree of life. I will have another whole entire talk about just that, about the tree of life. But right now we're talking about the path of the Lovers. So it moves from the potential of creation and being into the sphere of manifestation at the 6. So from the 3 to the 6. Okay, then, and as I already mentioned, the 3 is also the sphere of the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother lives in and around the sphere number 3, or the Divine Feminine, and the Divine Mother exemplifies the Divine Feminine, and we could call her Water Mother. And Water Mother is one of the 4 mothers, and she appears at the top of the suit of water, but she is the quintessential mother. okay? And then she connects to the quintessential sun who lives in or around sphere number 6, and that would be the wind brother. Okay, why do I say the quintessential sun and quintessential mother? Is because we have 4 mothers and we have 4 sons, but in truth, the key, all the mothers relate to water, so water mother is the key to all the mothers, and very important. I've got another lecture on that, on the Tarot family. The quintessential son or brother is the wind brother, because all the brothers correlate to mind. And so the mind is going to be most important with regard to the brothers. So these two, cosmic mother and cosmic son, are the two that are connected by the path of the lovers. The Divine Mother represents mystical water, and she also represents the cosmic sea. In the cosmic sea, all life begins and returns. This is the mystical symbology of the cosmic sea. She represents the domain of beginnings and endings. She is the creative force moving into form. She represents emotion, love, prophecy, and mediumship, because those are related to water. She represents the primal substance of life, and she is called Bina, B-I-N-A-H, or there are many spellings, but Bina. Bina is the secret wisdom, also called the mother, the mother. She reproduces and evolves. She reproduces and evolves herself, as well as the cosmic pattern itself. So she is the one who's creating more elaborate blueprints, you might say, cosmic blueprints, and then they get carried out. She brings forth her son, and on one level, mythologically, her son becomes her lover and her father. So this is the mythical part where the great mother or the great goddess gives birth to the son, who then becomes her consort. There are lots of myths around this. She brings forth her son, who becomes her lover and her father, mythically speaking, and then she becomes the lover of her son, and then the cycle of creation continues. It's all about creation, creating, and creativity. The divine son represents mystical air, which has to do with consciousness. The mother represents mystical water, which is the cosmic sea. The son represents mystical air, which is consciousness itself. Mystical air, consciousness, mental. The suit of wind is about the mind, which has to do with consciousness. So she, in a sense, the mother is giving birth to consciousness itself, which is going to fan out into all its diverse forms on the material plane. Why is consciousness itself male in this case? The male child? And it's because that male child is going to be emitting consciousness on the material plane into all the various forms. Now, to emit consciousness in all its various forms requires separating out into the forms. Okay, so we'll talk about that in just a second, about the separating out. But let me back up into Bina again, the mother. That's the Divine Mother. And I want to say a little bit more about the Divine Mother before going on to the separating out of consciousness. Bina is also called the foundation of beauty, and the path of the lovers is called the foundation of beauty. The divine child or son or brother lives in the 6th sphere, and that 6th sphere is called beauty. And the 6th of earth is called beauty. So that is the place of beauty. And then this path, and Bina herself is called the foundation of beauty, because what's traveling down the path of the lovers from the 3 into the 6 is this all the potential for beauty to manifest on the material plane. Bina has also been in the Western world. Bina has appeared as Mary. So Mary means sea. M-A-R means sea. Mar, mare, M-E-R, mother, and matter all relate to Mary. And Mary shows up in her blue robes, and that represents the cosmic sea, right? Blue robes and white, blue and white. White is like the foam on the cosmic sea. It goes back to Aphrodite and many other goddesses who appear in blue with the foam of the sea, or the pearls out of the sea. Okay, but now I want to go back to this idea of separating out to create consciousness. So giving birth, and then consciousness gets separated out into its diverse forms, manifold forms, countless forms, the countless forms of the universe, basically. The intelligence of the path of the lovers is called the disposing intelligence. Dispose. I'm also going to throw in that the spiritual experience of the path of Bina is the vision of sorrow. Sorrow, the vision of sorrow is a spiritual experience. Okay, why? Because the spiritual experience is choosing who and what will be born. And choosing who and what will be born also entails sorrow, because all that is born will die. All that is born will die. All that moves out into the field of manifestation, it doesn't matter if it's a child of body or a child of mind or a child of heart or a child of spirit. You know, it's all going to run its course, everything that we produce, and it will be reabsorbed in a larger field. So sorrow, the whole idea of sorrow and separation occur simultaneously, even in the moment. This can happen, it's paradoxical because it can happen even in the same moment that we become aware of oneness. So we can become aware of oneness and unity, and in the very same moment, separation and sorrow. And we're going to return back to this idea of the disposing intelligence because it's so important and what that means. So in the Lover's card, what happens is that when we become aware of the unity or the desire for unity, being replete with this idea of separation, right in the middle of it, I just had this vision of the Chinese Tao symbol, you know, that the Lovers is very much like the Chinese Tao symbol. So you go far enough into unity and you find separation. You go far enough into separation, you're going to find unity. And in the end, there's a whole big connection that can bring the entire thing together. So the Lovers can represent the agony of separation, and then in the very same moment, the bliss of union. So there's the paradox, right? The separation and the bliss. The agony and the bliss. I mean, the agony and the ecstasy, right? So there can also be ecstasy in separation. And this is wild too, because the ecstasy in separation has to do with the triumph of individual achievement. And the individual consciousness separating itself out. There's triumph. Okay? How complicated is this card? It's complicated. And there can be agony in union. Because union, without the experience of the totality of oneness, can leave us with a sense of unfulfilling bondage. Like we're trapped in what is supposed to be union. So knowing love and knowing the Lovers and what this is about is both an opportunity and a curse. And then I have the remembrance of my friend Virginia, who has since passed on, cackling in the background, and Virginia would say, I can never see that card, the Lovers. Here I'm looking at the card, the Lovers, and I cannot ever see the card, the Lovers, without seeing the devil standing right behind the lovers, okay? Because these are numerologically connected, because the devil is number 15, 1 and 5 equals 6, and the lovers is number 6. So here you see in the lovers card, you see the lovers balancing kind of precariously with each other, but then you see the same two in the devil card, but now they are artificially chained apart anyway. They're chained apart. It turns out it's not necessarily real. They might be able to get out of it, but right now they're trapped. Okay, so I'm not going to go any further into the devil card right now. We'll talk about that at another time. So I'm going to just return back to the lovers. But keep in mind, as Virginia would say, I can never look at the lovers card without seeing the devil right behind it. Okay, we'll leave it at that. All right. Okay. So the object of this card becomes the object. If there's an object to each of these cards, the object of the lovers card would become unconditional love. Somehow stepping into a space of unconditional love so we can embrace the totality of what is. And the secret of this card is the realization that love is the glue that binds all together. Returning to the sorrow aspect for a moment, sorrow also applies to the birth aspect of this card and the mother, in that the multiplicity of creation and the creatures, we'll just say the creatures of creation, whatever they are, spirit, heart, mind, and body. The multiplicity of creation and the creatures does not come into existence through addition, but by division. And so we're dividing and we're dividing and we're dividing, and there can be pain and sorrow in this multiplicity being created through the division. The mother has to learn how to relax into her birth pangs. And now I want to say something about that relates directly to childbirth, but I find this very interesting. It's a metaphor right now, but it's also true. It's called the fear, tension, pain syndrome in childbirth, which I think that was from Bradley, who came up with that. I'm not positive right now. But anyways, fear, tension, pain syndrome. And what happens is there's an experience of pain, and then that experience of pain creates fear within us because we don't understand it. So this may be pain that happens with a contraction during birth or something. And so, oh no, what is this? So here comes the fear. Then the fear creates more tension in our bodies. Then the tension increases the pain. Then the pain increases the fear. Then the fear increases the tension. And then the tension increases the pain. So it just keeps going. And it gets worse and worse and worse until we figure out how to unwind it. And usually in childbirth, by the way, and this same is true with most spiritual paths, that the key to unwinding it is breath, by the way. Breath, which is associated with air. So it's breathing, deep, long breaths, which starts to release the tension, it releases the pain, it releases the fear, and then we start going in another direction. And, this card, the Lovers, does have something to do with air, which we'll return to. Okay, so back to the idea of the disposing intelligence. First, I'll say that the Hebrew letter associated with the Lovers is called Zayin. It's Z-A-I-N. And Zayin means sword. And this sword is said to be the sword of knowledge and purpose on a higher level. The sword is associated with a mental process because, the swords they're associated with the suit of wind or the suit of swords in the tarot. That represents consciousness. It also represents subconsciousness, and it represents self-consciousness. So when we're dealing with the swords, we're dealing with all of those different aspects of consciousness. It's also a sword of birth and a sword of death. It opens the veil between worlds. It's a symbol of separation, the sword. It symbolizes also, as a symbol of separation, it symbolizes a departure from the cosmic sea and a return to the cosmic sea, because the sword, the cosmic sea contains all that is. That's the mother. And then as consciousness is born out into the material plane and separated into its discrete forms, the sword is like cutting in everything into its discrete forms, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. So it also has, the sword is also phallic. It has a sexual element to it that is a metaphor for and a principle of the idea of polarity. So cutting into parts creates these polarizations, and interestingly, the polarizations themselves actually produce manifestation. So it's through the polarities that manifestation comes along and then continues to produce and reproduce itself. That is the essence of the disposing intelligence. The disposing intelligence creates humans and plants and cats. And to demonstrate the idea of a cat born onto the material plane, we are going to listen periodically to the cat's meow. The disposing intelligence, Zayin, the sword, cuts to the core of things. It is about the power to separate out and to reunite. And when we understand separating out and reuniting, we come into a place of really deep understanding and theoretically wisdom. Creating by separating or selecting out. That's what the essence of this card is about. The sword cleaves, cuts, divides, creates categories and forms of manifestation. So we are continually in the process of categorizing and creating the universe, or rather, I'll put it this way, the universe is continually in the process of creating and categorizing itself, creating form in the formless, name in the nameless. And of course, we are universe engaged in that process. We are the universe engaged in the process of creation. So we are continually creating form in the formless and name in the nameless. We create by growing and bringing into existence by dividing out. We are designing. We are causing. We are bringing about, especially through our imagination. Imagination is the key for us as humans. This disposing intelligence brings everything into being. It distributes gender. It distributes polarity. It creates a tension of opposites. Polarity, as I earlier mentioned, is the basic principle of manifest existence. The charged poles that bring everything into being. So the paradox of the Lovers, and for me so the Lovers is my soul card. I've grappled with it. Where is my beloved? Who is my beloved? You know, I've grappled with this all my life. It's very interesting, the complex of the Lovers. Here is the paradox of the Lovers, which I find so extremely interesting. Without separation, there can be no connections. We are attracted to, drawn to, that with which we wish to merge. In manifest form, we are always united and separated at the very same time, depending on our point of view. But without separation, there can be no demonstration of love. That the very separation allows us to be drawn to the demonstration of love. If we were all one, would passionate love poetry exist? I mean, this is where it all comes from. It's the longing, it's the wanting, it's the desire that allows us to demonstrate love. Separating out is about disposing, it is about arranging, and it is about putting into a position. And so as we are disposing, what we are deciding here as the disposing intelligence is what to keep and what to get rid of, what to dispose of. So we are continually making these decisions. This separating out process, I'm still talking about the paradox of the lovers. This separating out process brings us great grief, and it also brings us great joy. We may be very hopeful but feel cut off. We may strive to reunite even as we fear reunion. Because in the union or the reunion, we may experience a loss of individuality. So we can get completely drowned out by this, you see? Even so, our very separation becomes the basis of our love. The desire to reconnect is our driving force. It's the desire to unite the opposites. And again, that desire is often driven by loneliness, by a sense of being lonely within ourselves. The astrology of the lovers is Gemini. So Gemini's air, so that's interesting too, because that's going to have something to do with consciousness. And, we would think it would be more water about the lovers, more about heart, more about the sea. But it turns out it's really about our consciousness. And, this air, it's Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is communication, represents communication, and Mercury, the god Mercury holds the staff of healing, and healing means to make whole. So this is what we are moving toward and wanting in the lovers, is the idea of making whole. And yet the symbol for the lovers is Gemini, the twins, right? So the twins are simultaneously separated and probably and whole in the sense of being closer than anybody could be at the same time. This Gemini represents the birth of individuality, the individual sparks that emerge from the cosmic sea. It also represents human relationships and the sacred marriage. On another level, so here are 3 different levels. One is the birth of individuality, one is human relationships and the sacred marriage, and the next layer is the human connection with the divine, the marriage of the self and the divine. I want to go back to the birth of individuality for a second, the idea of individual sparks emerging from the cosmic sea. So we're born as individuals, but within ourselves, we have polarities. We've got these polarizations within ourselves. So part of the task of the lovers becomes to achieve the sacred marriage within our own selves. That's one level. Second, sacred marriage between humans, right? That's another level of it. And then third, this human connection with the divine, that's a sacred marriage between the self and the divine. And when people move into that place of having achieved something that seems like a sacred marriage between the self and the divine, that's what is called being twice born, or enlightenment. When you finally understand the greater picture. The movement of one toward another, whether it's within ourselves, whether it's toward another human or something else on the planet, or whether it's the search for God, or God consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. This movement of one toward another is driven by striving toward meaningful inner relationships. That's what the whole thing is about. Searching for meaning, searching for meaningful inner relationships. And again, without separation, there can be no demonstration of love. And that is going to happen on all these levels. Our worship, our veneration, those are all demonstrations of love. And in a way, if you can see it this way, it indicates the feeling of separation from that. Because we're going to worship and adore that from which we are separated. If we become that, we may no longer be worshiping or adoring. You see what I mean? Okay, so the secret or esoteric name of this card is Children of the Voice. So you could think of that divine son or that spark that is being born as a child of the voice. The individual spark takes form and can begin to recognize itself, possibly. This child of the voice is born out of the cosmic sea. And the voice is the entire vibration of the cosmos moving itself in and out of being. One of the mysteries that's talked about in the Western Mystery School is the idea that water is the secret abode of fire, because it's from the cosmic sea that all the individual sparks emerge. The path is called, the secret esoteric name of the path of the lovers is called Children of the Voice, and it also is child of the voice or child of the word or child of the logos. This is another way of calling it. It's said that we connect potentially through our divine double or a holy guardian angel or our higher self to the greater cosmos. And what happens is this manifests within us as a sense of faith in our higher purpose, our higher power, or a greater vision. So part of the path of the lovers is us connecting back over the abyss, through the abyss to the cosmic sea, and they're discovering a greater vision for ourselves. It is said that there's an angel on the path of the lovers, and the angel on the path of the lovers is Raphael, the archangel of healing and wholeness. Okay, why? Because we're learning on this path, we're trying to learn on this path how to heal and how to be whole through the lovers. The lovers is trying to teach us wholeness. We are trying to learn to unite in a state of balance and harmony. And even when we look at the card, we see the lovers gingerly, carefully balancing on a crossbar. It's like they're trying to hold on to each other, and they're balancing around, by the way, a sword when you look at the card. If they hold too tightly, they are going to get cut. And in fact, when you look at the card, you see that the man on the card is bleeding. Also, he looks very frightened and very alone. He's wounded. And see how the woman on the card she's the divine mother, he's the divine son. She's holding him and caretaking him in some way and trying to balance on the path. Let's talk a little bit more about this card for a minute, what some of the symbols are. On that central sword, we see it turning into the staff of Mercury, and we can see Mercury, there's a symbol for Mercury in the background, and we see the snakes intertwining up the path. That's the caduceus, the Western medical symbol, which talks about healing through the balancing of opposites, and it is those snakes represent charged, moving, uncoiling energy. But at the same time, where they crisscross, it's like it's it's like a spark is created. So it has something to do with like electric energy, healing electric energy.
A circuit.
Like a circuit. It's like a circuit. It's like a circuit turning on. So that's part of the symbolism. We also see the symbol for Venus in the card, which is the divine feminine energy. And we see the Gemini and Zayin as the symbols. And we see the lovers they're naked, they're barefoot, they're that is an indication that of their vulnerability in this kind of relationship. And the salmon pink all represents the love. The color of the card is actually orange, is one of the key colors. So we'll return to this orange and mauve. So let's return to that in a minute. That's a little bit about the lovers. There are wings up at the top of the card. Those represent that holy guardian angel, or an opening between worlds, where we could actually be instructed, you might say, by opening the path between worlds. So as such, the path of the lovers is seen as a crack in the cosmos. It's also rending the veil between worlds. The birth aspect, the marriage aspect, and the death aspect all have something to do with rending the veil. Because when we come in, we're rending the veil. The consummation of marriage is rending the veil. And when we exit, that's also rending the veil between worlds. So the ingress, the consummation, and the egress all have to do with rending the veil. It is said that the path of the lovers is about divinity moving in and out of manifestation. And many have described the path of the lovers as the emergence of Christ consciousness on the physical plane. Okay, Christ consciousness means it's a messenger, right? Messenger consciousness coming from the other world, but this is enlightened consciousness in the form of the wind brother as being born onto the material plane as potentially divine consciousness. And it is said we are all in that space, but we don't necessarily realize it, or we're not necessarily awake to it. The second birth is the birth that has to do with the being twice born in the emergence of ourselves. And this is where we come to understand our individual purpose on a higher level. And this entails a transformation in all aspects of our being. In this transformation, we dispose of what we no longer need or what no longer fits. And we surrender to the fact of birth and death at once in that place. Some things are dying, some things are being born. We are separating out and recombining. We are giving up one form to gain another. And it is through this action of surrender into this space that we actually achieve victory. So the surrender leads into victory. We give up one form to gain another. Very Taoist feeling. This is a disintegration and reintegration of the totality of self, which is a necessary action for the soul, our soul, to, quote, return to the garden. And to return to the garden is where we're in the pure land of being with a deep sense of understanding. Okay, that's a very cursory, I guess, introduction to the lovers, because the lovers is such a complex card. The colors of the lovers are orange, pale mauve, quote, new yellow leather, and reddish gray with mauve undertones. And if you want to meditate on the lovers and go deeper into the energy, you can attune to the musical note D and the color orange, it will take you deeper and deeper into this place. And I would like to end with the invitation to walk the path of lovers, the lovers from Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit. Okay, opening the book. Here we go. Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit. So you can just close your eyes and think of that color orange and just listen. Think of orange and just listen. May I reach deep within to find love. May I discover love at the heart of being. May I rend the veil that masks the source of all love. May I render holy that which seems mundane. May I dispel anger, hatred, and envy. May anger, hatred, and jealousy be as lines drawn on water. May I focus my intention on cosmological reverence. May I realize the gift of cosmological love. May I walk my path in cosmological love. May I open to receive the key of the lovers. And finally, affirmations for the lovers. I burn through the veil of separation. I consciously embrace the unity of compassionate cosmological love. Intention illumines the light of love. I walk the illumined path of the cosmological lover.